In the natural world, when there is death, we will also find vultures. It is a symbiotic relationship of seizing opportunity, right? But when we look out into the world, into society, and how a lot of systems and structures are collapsing in a metaphorical way, we are also seeing vultures. The collapse of capitalism is and was inevitable because it does not embody a model of sustainability. It is built on a model of continual profit, continual growth at the expense of the workers, at the expense of the environment. I'm here with some horoscopes. It's summer solstice. I'm Erin, I'm Queen Bee Tarot. We've got a lot of heavy things going on, and I'm recording this at a time when the world feels deeply unstable. Things are escalating, people are scared and overwhelmed and grieving, and right there with you, you guys. My tarot card has always been the Hermit, and this is a card that's been following me since I was a kid. I am a professional astrologer and tarot reader, and everyone who starts to work with tarot will find that a card kind of becomes your significator. The significance of the Hermit is the climb through a lonely time, the darkness of the soul, the dark night of the soul, and the importance of holding a light to shine for others who are still in the dark. That's why I'm here. I'm here to enlighten, uplift, and empower. It has been a while. I did have to take a bit of an extended break because in order to continue holding a light for others, I had to really pay close attention to why my own personal light was fading. But I'm back and I'm here, and my hope with these horoscopes today is to shine a light for all of you out there. So I hope that this message reaches anyone who needs to hear it. I'm going to start with a general overview, kind of what's happening in the world, and I'd like to find ways to string it all together, make it personal, and help you understand how these transits might be affecting you. But of course, these are general readings. If you would like to schedule a personal private look at what's happening for you, you can do so on my website at www.queenbeetarot.net or .com. I have online booking. You can be anywhere in the world. I've got lots to offer, and I'd love to support you in your journey. I hope the noises aren't bothering you. I do have crows and ravens that come visit me all the time, so they're probably going to be popping in and out. But I really wanted to do this video outside. I really wanted to kind of switch things up. There have been a lot of changes happening, and you yourself might be noticing how stagnancy is really just kind of getting your goat. Earlier this year, Saturn and Neptune both moved into Aries. The significance of that, I do actually have full year horoscopes available on my YouTube channel. I will try and link that wherever the little thing comes up. So definitely check that out if you haven't. But I'm going to do a quick recap. Saturn and Neptune just moved into Aries at the beginning of the year, and Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. So in a lot of ways, astrologers have been calling this the Great Reset, simply because Saturn represents systems and structures. It does enter a new zodiac sign about every 2 years. It does a full circle through the zodiac every 29 years. So it is really, really significant when Saturn moves into Aries, because it is kind of a reset for the systems and structures in our lives. That's both personal, political, whatever you want to call it. It has a pretty big scope of meaning. Now, Neptune takes approximately 156 years to do one full cycle through the zodiac. So for Neptune to have also moved into Aries at the exact same time really adds a bigger layer of significance to kind of the bigger picture of what we're seeing play out right now. You know, people have been talking for a long time about the age of Aquarius, and I don't know if you remember, but back in 2020, and if you think, my God, 2020 is kind of when everything started hitting the fan, and it never really calmed down after that, right? Now, the age of Aquarius is this reference to these bigger systems that can be tracked through astrology, and Aquarius is kind of like the hippie of zodiac signs. Not so much about like the all good part of things, because we do have to recognize what's not good. But Aquarius is the humanitarian. It is the social service energy of really wanting to make sure that all members of society are well taken care of, not just the people at the top. So in 2020, Jupiter and Saturn had what's called the Great Conjunction, which happens about every 20 years. But what made the Great Conjunction in 2020 extra significant was that it happened in the sign of Aquarius at about 0 or 1 degrees Aquarius. So the significance of that is that the Great Conjunction that happens every 20 years will happen in one particular element for 200 years. So that means that the Great Conjunction for the last 200 years had been happening in Earth signs. And so no matter how many times we had a reset in the last 200 years, each time it was still happening in an Earth sign, which meant that there was an energy of continual growth or continual reinvestment in the long-standing systems and structures that had been established and then created and nurtured over that time. So in 2020, when we had the Great Conjunction at 0 degrees Aquarius, the significance of that was we're starting a whole new ballgame. And as far as our collective desire to move into all that we imagine that the age of Aquarius could bring us, you know, lots of times we're kind of putting the cart before the horse. We're thinking, yeah, humanity's going to be empowered. The people are going to rise up. There's something really important to remember about human nature. Humans like to be comfortable, right? Everybody likes to be comfortable. But what that means is, in the grand scheme of things, that humans do not embark on change until staying the same becomes too uncomfortable to tolerate. And so a lot of the change that we're seeing and all the momentum that's happening right now is happening because of a catalyst called discomfort. And this is where, coming back to the systems and structures of patriarchal society and capitalistic society, we reached a point where there's no denying it's unsustainable. There's no denying that something has to change, right? And so this is where we see kind of like, you know, the ship is sinking. We've got vultures coming in, the top 1%, the billionaires who have bought the American election and are trying to kind of grab up all the last remaining resources. They're doing so at the detriment and expense of everyone, 99% in the world. Now, this is not just the USA. This is really kind of everything that's happening in the world. Obviously, every single country has its own thing going on, but we're talking about general vibes and general themes that are happening here, right? So coming back to the Great Conjunction that happened in 2020, we knew that the age of Aquarius was starting to come in, but we didn't really quite understand how that was going to happen, right? Discomfort being the catalyst. Well, what happens is things get squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. The cost of living, all these different factors coming together in like the perfect, most uncomfortable storm. Well, what happens? Now the people are rising up, but the people aren't rising up because it's fun to do so. The people are rising up because there is no other option. Things have become so intolerable that your average, you know, armchair activist is actually getting up and actually involving themselves. You know, for the first time in the history of LA gangs, the LA gangs have called a truce to be able to work together to defeat ICE, to support the community, to come together the way it matters. That is the age of Aquarius. That is humanitarianism at its finest, at its root meaning. So yes, beautiful things are coming. Yes, there is some brutal discomfort happening here. But I really want to kind of shine a light on, despite all the darkness, where can we find that light, and where can we possibly bring that light into our communities and into our circles, both personal and professional. So, you know, I really struggled for a while. Like, funny thing about being psychic is that you can get pissed off about things before they even happen. And a lot of the downloads I've been receiving over the last few months, I could not bring myself to make horoscopes because I didn't know how to translate what was coming through in a way that aligns with my mission, which is to enlighten, uplift, and empower. everything that was coming through was making me feel powerless, and I had to kind of do triage in my own life to really gather my thoughts, gather my strength, and be able to return in a way that I'm genuinely sharing the light. So that's why I'm here today, guys. Thank you for being here. Mwah! I love you. And yeah, these horoscopes are not meant to be distractions. I'm here to help you stay human in the face of everything that's going on. I'm here to help you remember your strength. I'm here to help you remember the importance of softness, and hopefully help you find your voice, your strength in whatever way fits for your life, right? So whether you're on the front lines or simply just holding space for others, I want you to know that your presence matters. Your voice matters, and speak your truth even if your voice shakes, because somebody out there needs to hear it, right? Our inner compass matters most when the world loses its way. And in shamanism, when masks blind us, rattles are used to help us find our way. Sometimes we have to be shaken up to be able to see clearly. And so as uncomfortable as this is, we are kind of in the birth canal of the age of Aquarius, my friends. So as much as you can, you know, a lot of the things that have been coming through are like in the never-ending story, how you can drown in the sadness. That is a very real risk right now. And so as much as we can, without frivolity, without toxic positivity, as much as you can, holding on to the light, the truth, and through that, finding your way. That's my mission here, right? I just want you to know that you're not alone, and I'm going to do my best to enlighten, uplift, and empower. So let's look at a couple of things. In addition to, you know, I started this thinking about, like, I wanted to look at the bigger picture. I'm talking about the Great Conjunction of 2020. And the reason the Great Conjunction matters so much is because, so we have a Great Conjunction every 20 years. Let's imagine that being a circle. And if we divide 20 into 4 quarters, what we have is 5. So we reach a quarter of the way of that journey every 5 years. It's 2025. What we're experiencing now, we've got Saturn at Aries, we've got Jupiter at Cancer. In astrology, a 90-degree angle, that 1/4 point, that's called a square. And in astrology, a square is a challenge in which we have to stretch outside of our comfort zone, tackle some obstacles, or work through some challenges. But the hardest part is knowing what is within our power to overcome. What is within our power to be able to affect change. The older you get, the more you're going to realize there ain't a damn thing you can do to change other people. But when we change how we show up in the world, that has a ripple effect. We can offer advice, we can offer information, but we really have to guard ourselves, our peace, our happiness against anything that causes us to drown. So just like I had to do, if you need to take a break from social media, if you need to take a break from friendships, relationships, whatever the case may be, in order to kind of do triage for your life and your sanity, do what you got to do. It pays off. It is so incredibly important to nurture your flame so that you can continue to shine bright in a way that feels right for you, right? So like I was saying, we've got a Saturn-Jupiter square happening right now. With Saturn being in Aries and with Neptune as well, we're going through this great reset. And because Saturn represents the systems and structures that are, to have Saturn at this Aries point, but also with Neptune, like I was saying, 156 years, this is a pretty rare conjunction. Not only are we kind of taking a new look at what are the systems and structures that we're buying into, we're wanting to infuse that with some new ideals, some new hope, some new dreams for a better future. And that's what Neptune invites us to do. But Neptune has this funny way of not only showing us the ideals, but also tempting us with distractions. And one of the most challenging things to deal with nowadays is misinformation, confusion, and distractions. It feels like we can't trust the news. It feels like, we can't trust social media. All of these distractions cause us to kind of just short out, right? And the ultimate truth is always found deep within, which is why taking a break or, giving yourself some respite in which you're eliminating distractions or interference helps you rediscover your inner truth. Well, what does that inner truth look like? Jupiter just moved into Cancer. Jupiter is all about belief systems. And it's the journey of exploring the belief systems that come from the outside world in the form of education, philosophy, religion, whatever it is, and then matching that or comparing that to the belief systems and things that you know to be true inside of your heart, your spirit, your life. It's a double-ended balance thing. Now, Jupiter takes about 14 years to go through the zodiac, so it takes about 1 year-ish to move through one zodiac sign. And Jupiter just finished its journey through Gemini. It's actually debilitated in Gemini. It's not its favorite place. Jupiter likes to expand, and Gemini is very distracting. It's almost like too much information. Gemini is connected to writing and reading, social media, all of our networks, personal and professional. So while Jupiter was in Gemini during 2024, our networks expanded, but there was also a massive influx and an increase in the misinformation that was coming through as well, leading to confusion. And so when we hit that breaking point of like, wow, nothing freaking makes sense anymore, I feel like I'm in a fever dream, then like I was saying, the way to find that truth again is to go deep within. So now that Jupiter just moved into Cancer, it's considered to be exalted in Cancer. And what that means is that the qualities that Jupiter likes to embody, it does best in Cancer. So Jupiter is really expansive, and what Cancer offers is an expansion of the heart. Cancer is associated with the moon. It is Latin for crab, so it is associated with the deep sea creature, the crab. And when Jupiter, which is all about expansion and belief systems, enters Cancer, we come up against a very clear obstacle. How are my emotions getting in the way? How is potentially a lack of feeling nurtured making itself very clear as some sort of an obstacle that I'm really struggling with right now? So while Jupiter spends the next year moving through Cancer, it is going to be very, very clear that we cannot ignore our feelings. And in fact, a lot of the ways that the capitalistic structures and society and political systems, the way that the patriarchal society has been trying to dig its claws in like a vulture as things are falling apart, is that they're digging into the theme of hatred. So the patriarchy only survives by dividing the people. In a matriarchal society, all the families are connected. We support each other, multiple generations support the children, the farming, the hunting, whatever it is. The matriarchal society encourages connection, and through connection, we are able to achieve abundance and prosperity. With the patriarchal model, what we have is separation. Every man for himself. And with that, the only way it can survive is through hatred and through fear. When we are programmed to fear people who believe things differently or look differently, then we avoid connection. And that pays off in the form of profit for the patriarchal and capitalistic society, right? The way that billion-dollar makeup industries stay alive is because we are made to feel insecure about how we look. It's very fear-driven, whereas the matriarchal society is very love-driven. It's nurturing, it's compassionate, we respect, we include, right? And so that's why the patriarchal society is pushing the whole like no supports for people who need it, and eliminating immigrants and all these horribly hateful things. I'm not going to get too much into it, but this is where this tipping point that's happening is through the sudden and stark realization of some very harsh truths that are happening right now, is realizing how hatred is getting in the way, and the only way through is through love and compassion. And when we love our neighbor, what we're doing is we're saying, hey, I have extra room at the table. If we're not all scrambling for resources, there is more to share, right? And when we're afraid of not having enough, that is when we might push people away and say, oh, I don't have enough, I can't share, right? So with Jupiter being in Cancer right now, it is a very weepy time. We just started Cancer season a couple days ago with the summer solstice in the northern hemisphere. In the southern hemisphere, of course, it's the winter solstice. And during Cancer season, it is like turning on the waterworks. Emotions are going to be right up at the surface. We're going to be feeling raw and vulnerable. So it's kind of this perfect storm. But the way things are coming together is that we can no longer pretend that any of this is normal or any of this is acceptable. It's very much so not, right? And so the only way through is through compassion, right? So I did cast a chart. We are looking at some really important stuff. Mars just moved into Virgo. So the way in which we are channeling our life force and our energy is by focusing on the details, not ignoring the details right now. We have to pay attention and ask ourselves, how can we be healthier? How can we eliminate waste? How can we eliminate anything that is causing disease, discomfort, and disconnection, right? How can we walk our highest paths, both personally, professionally, and globally? We cannot run from the truth anymore. The new moon that's coming up on June 25th is going to be a conjunction of the sun and moon and Jupiter all together in Cancer. It's going to be a very emotional time. There's going to be a lot of big emotions, as well as all those feelings of powerlessness surfacing, right? But that is how abusers stay in control, is by silencing the victims. That is how capitalism and the patriarchal society stays in control, is by silencing anybody who speaks out against it, right? So truly, with Saturn and Neptune being in Aries, Aries is the god of war, truly, in order to find our way through and achieve the best and healthiest possible outcome, is a hummingbird just came in, is by fighting for our rights. We cannot sit by, we cannot be complacent, we cannot let hatred win. But fighting for our rights obviously is a very delicate thing, to find that fine balance between advocating for the underdog but not causing violence, not causing harm to others, right? So anyway, the battles that you're fighting are real and valid, but we don't have enough energy or resources to fight them all, and so we do have to narrow down our priorities. The horoscopes that I'm about to do for all 12 signs are all about narrowing down your personal priorities, narrowing down what is genuinely within your control, what might you have to kind of let go of, where do you have to do triage in your own life, and how can you potentially shine a light for others that are lost in the darkness. Just looking over my notes and making sure I've got everything together. Okay. So these horoscopes are written for rising signs and sun signs. If you know your rising sign, definitely go with that one first. But if you don't know your rising sign, just go with your sun sign. It will still have plenty of significance. So Aries sun and Aries rising, the great conjunction was happening in your 11th house. And for you guys, that's actually a sextile. That's actually a really supportive, creative energy. Even though it felt like the world was going through some crazy stuff, if you're an Aries sun or an Aries rising and you look back to 2020, even though there was crazy stuff happening, you were some of the few that were actually coming out on top and actually finding the silver lining faster than a lot of other people. I don't mean everything was perfect, but I do mean there was a lot of good stuff happening there. Whereas now that we're in the Jupiter-Saturn square, you know, Jupiter is in your 4th house and Saturn and Neptune are in your 1st house. So you're feeling really serious about like, oh my God, who am I? And how do I maintain emotional integrity in everything that's happening in the world? Back in 2020, you probably had a stronger desire to kind of stand up tall and maybe prove yourself to the world. And what's falling away is that doesn't really matter as much to you anymore. What matters the most to you now is feeling healthy and happy and safe within your heart and within your home. So the Great Conjunction would have kind of catalyzed a question for you of like, what kind of world, what kind of groups do you belong to? Who are you, your people, right? And what is the future that you're trying to build? Whereas now, with Jupiter and the new moon on the 25th being in your 4th house, the question is all about how do you feel? It's not about what other people think anymore. It's about how do you feel? And the more in personal or professional situations, the more you feel like you have to kind of work extra hard to explain yourself, or especially in the personal relationships, you're not going to be wanting to do that. It's exhausting. And you're really going to be narrowing down who you spend time with based on how smooth and how safe it feels for you. So in a lot of ways, you might be feeling stretched between needing security, but also feeling like you're being called into leadership, like this push and pull between feeling like you have to kind of stand up and maybe be somebody. But the more you look around at the examples around you, the more you're going to be like, I don't want to be like all of them. The way that you stand into your own leadership in your life, whether it be personally or professionally, you're going to be doing so with heart. And so I just want to validate that for you. That your heart and your emotions are really, really, really important. And in order to achieve the best possible outcome, lean into how you feel instead of avoiding how you feel. Uranus is finishing its journey through your 2nd house, which means that finances have been up and down, all over the place, garbage, if you will, for quite a few years. And it feels in a lot of ways like it's either coming to a head or coming to a close. When Uranus moves into Gemini on July 7th, the focus is going to be away from finances and more around who's in your circle, who gets to be VIP. So the blessing is that financial instability is going to be a thing of the past. It's all going to be about putting your boundaries and values into practice, really living your truth and feeling stronger in speaking your truth as well. So yeah, Mars is finishing Mars just finished being in your 5th house. So there was a big desire on being playful and creative. Now Mars is going to spend about a month or so in your 6th house. So expect work opportunities to pick up. Like I said, money troubles to start fading in the background. But what's really important is that you don't forget what brought you here. Always, always, always honor your heart and your inner truth. And if people seem bound and determined to misunderstand you, they are not your people. Taurus Sun and Taurus Rising, the Great Conjunction of 2020 hit your 10th house. And so back then you would have been going through these massive, like big thoughts around what is my legacy? Where do I want to go from here? What is my 5-year plan, 10-year plan, yada, yada. And so there would have been a big focus on monetization, among other things, but also bringing your special voice into that and wanting to make sure that your career choices and path align with an authentic version of you, which may not have felt really accessible before that. Now that Jupiter's moving into your 3rd house, you're kind of minimizing that. You're like, okay, yes, like I need to be paying attention to the bigger picture, but what really matters is the here and now. What really matters is the people that you see every day, the people in your neighborhood, right? And making sure that, like, you know, maybe as you were going through a lot of inner growth, it would have been quite difficult to expose yourself to other people, because a lot of the process that you go through, you protect it fiercely. You don't want to talk about your journey to someone who's just going to be careless and not respect what you're going through, right? So you may have been isolating for a while, but what's opening up now is new social opportunities, but also a new confidence where you don't feel so vulnerable. You're almost kind of ready to explore curiosities and hear what other people have to say. You're not in such a protective mode. The new moon in your third house can bring new opportunities, personal and professional. Hello, friend. All the crows are visiting. But yeah, it's a lot of it is all about really just speaking your truth, and you're not so afraid to speak your truth anymore. You've done enough cutting out the fluff and removing distractions that don't need to be there, that it's a lot more safe for you to speak your truth. But the Neptune Saturn conjunction that's happening in Aries is in your 12th house, and so it almost feels like you've worked through such a huge to-do list that now you're like, oh, okay, what else is there? Whether it be cleaning out your closet, returning to dreams, imagination, hope, stuff like that. It's less of a practical or survival vibe. And what you're moving into is really wanting to return to all that makes life delicious. Now, Uranus has been in your first house, indicating a huge metamorphosis for who you are and how you show up in this world. But what is happening is that now that Uranus is going to move into Gemini on July 7th, you're going to be moving into about a decade, maybe 7-8 years, depending on how big your second house is, but a solid chunk of time in which finances are going to be a big concern. You're going to have a changing relationship with finances because who you are and how you show up in the world has changed. The things that you might have been okay with doing, you're not okay with doing anymore if it meant compromising your values or pretending to be someone that you're not. So as you move forward, aligning your authenticity with your income, you may find that you go through periods of financial instability, but don't panic. The end result will be aligning with who you are and who you want to be. It's just going to be a little bit awkward at first, but eventually you'll get in the groove. But this would not be a good time for you to make huge investments or huge purchases unless you have a solid and practical plan for how that's going to turn out. So not like spur of the moment stuff, right? Think before you spend. Yeah, Gemini Sun and Gemini Rising. The Great Conjunction happened in your 9th house. And so 5 years ago, you were noticing that your concept of the future was changing. You may have had some really harsh or difficult things happen that dashed your hopes or forced you to kind of reconsider what your game plan is. And there may have been a crisis of faith at the same time. That eventually would have led you to better things, but if the money hasn't connected yet, you may still be questioning the big why, right? And it's important to remember not everything has meaning. Sometimes things just suck. Sometimes people just suck. Sometimes there isn't a bigger meaning behind it. So do be mindful of the tendency to seek that meaning when maybe it's not there. But now that we're at the Jupiter-Saturn square, Saturn's in your 11th house. So you're feeling a lot more serious, but also focused on how you want to engage with the outside world. Having more focus is awesome because you would have had a tendency in the past to kind of cast a wide net, maybe wanting to be everybody's friend. And the more you are authentic with who you are, the less you care about making other people feel happy. So there's massive transitions happening for you. But with Jupiter moving into your 2nd house, you guys, I don't know if you guys can hear the crows as bad as I can hear it. Now that Jupiter is moving into your 2nd house, expect money to come more easily. But you also have to have your eyes open for new opportunities. You may have new job opportunities or new money-making opportunities come in if you're too rigid in who you think you are, you might say no to something good. But if you're more open-minded as far as a changing role in your community or a changing sense of self, then you'll be more able to see opportunities when they're offered to you. But again, I really just feel called to tell you, you know, a lot of people will get stuck in the whole, well, if universe offered it to me, then it's meant to be. No. Actually, the universe is kind of like being at a catered event. You know, sometimes the catering people will come around with these trays of food. If it's soggy hot dogs, it's not necessarily meant for you. You can say, no, thank you. And you can wait for the tray of champagne, right? So with the Cancer new moon and Jupiter in your second house, it's important to focus on what you really value and what is worth protecting when it comes to how you earn your money or how you interact with your physical world. With Saturn and Neptune in your 11th house, you may find that your friendships are changing, your concept of society is changing, and Uranus is just finishing with your 12th house. So for the next couple of weeks until July 7th, you may feel still like there's some sort of a mystery that you're trying to solve. But by July 7th, when Uranus moves into your sign, everything is going to become clear as far as who you want to be, what are the final stages of growth that you need to throw yourself into, and what will this metamorphosis bring out of you. So yeah, with Mars in your 4th house, follow your heart, look inwards for direction, not outwards. And within a couple of weeks, everything is going to start to become so much more clear for you. So hang in there. Cancer Sun and Cancer Rising. The Greek conjunction activated your 8th house. There were massive, massive things happening for you. Very focused on life, death, rebirth, shocking changes or deep transformation. I mean, it was just like full body experiences, right? And a lot of it felt like a fight for survival. Everything felt really raw for you. You guys were some of the signs that were most negatively affected by everything that happened in 2020. But now with Jupiter and the new moon in your sign, this is like a blessing. This is like a 4-leaf clover or a fairy godmother coming and saying, you have suffered enough. What sort of bountiful blessings and new beginnings could you wish for right now? Excuse me. And then make those wishes. Imagine that there is a new possibility and lean into that. What would that look like for you? What would that feel like for you? And walk in that direction. This is a major reset for you, but Saturn and Neptune are in your 10th house. So there is still a very serious and potentially even restrictive perspective, very real, very soberingly real, and not very hopeful perspective on what your future might look like. But it's really important to update your map and your compass for the future, not so much based on the instability that you experienced back in 2020, but reset it, recalibrate it, make sure to take into account all the growth, all the changes, all the ways in which you have personally evolved, and then see if that updates your vision for the future. If you find that you're just so incredibly just depressed and cynical about the future, that's valid, and no amount of toxic positivity is ever going to make you feel better. So a helpful exercise for you would be trying to find real life examples of hope, empirical evidence that good things are happening, that hope is worth looking for. For example, like new guerrilla tactics that are happening that just really put a smile on my face is how people are glitter bombing ice so that these people can be identified when they don't have their masks on, you know, stuff like that. Chaotic good, right? And the more that you can find evidence of real good stuff, real positive stuff happening, see if you can just lock that into your inner library, because you really do need a boost of hope, but it obviously has to come from a realistic place, right? Yeah, it still probably feels really too hard for you to step into the public eye in a lot of ways. You might actually be taking a step back from anything that you're doing in the public eye. Doing triage is really important. Like I was saying earlier in the video, do what you got to do to save your sanity, to refill your cup, to recharge your batteries. The world can wait, my dear. Uranus is moving through your 11th house, and this is really tying into how your own personal concept of your role out there in the world has shifted dramatically. And when Uranus moves into Gemini on July 7th, that's going to be your 12th house. So you're still looking at a solid chunk of time, 7-8 years, whatever, of maybe feeling like you want to hide. But it's not so much like hiding as it is protecting your peace, protecting your sanity, and cocooning while you go through a really important period of metamorphosis. So even though it might be tempting or feel almost unavoidable to drown in whatever it is you're experiencing, your lighthouse, your lifeboat is going to come from realistic examples of hope or chaotic good, or support from people that matter the most in your life, right? And Mars is moving through your, just finished moving through your 2nd house, and now it's moving into your 3rd. So really kind of lean into, if you have a desire to connect, a desire to share your voice, a desire to seek support, do it. Because it definitely feels like you need to be reminded of how loved you are. Leo sun and Leo rising, the great conjunction happened in your 7th house. And so starting in kind of 2020, there would have been huge dramatic shifts in your relationships in the world. The one-on-one interactions that you have, whether it be with a partner or a coworker, or it's these close interactions where you have opportunities to really kind of get to know people on an intimate basis, not in a crowd. And the great conjunction would have led to a lot of relationships ending, new ones beginning, but it kind of shadowed your perspective, because through the past 5 years, there's also been a huge focus on how other people see you. And when we get lost in how we look to other people, we forget to formulate that self-image on our own. So now with Jupiter and the new moon in your 12th house, there's a really important kind of voice on your shoulder being like, well, what does it feel like in your heart? It doesn't matter what other people think. How do you feel? Lean into that. Lean into how you shine brightly in private. And the more that you can dig into or nurture that inner sense of self, you're going to find that your relationships then evolve again, because you're not so worried about the react and respond thing. You're showing up with integrity. You're showing up with self-love or self-compassion, right? It's not a performance. It's about living life in the most real and authentic way that you can. So the new moon is definitely going to activate your dreams and inspire a desire to perhaps nurture yourself in your own private time. You may feel more compelled to avoid the spotlight, avoid interactions. And with Saturn and Neptune in your 9th house, this new beginning for you, as much as it may feel uncomfortable, there's also this sense of, you know, it needs to happen. And as you're kind of reformulating your belief systems as far as how you think about yourself, how you perceive the world, this almost in a lot of ways has to happen in private, because if you talk too much about what you're going through, you're going to listen too much to what other people think. Talk to yourself, right? Have conversations with yourself. Maybe even imagine talking to your inner child or talking to your inner teenager, and see what those versions of you have to say, instead of asking people that are outside of you, people who don't live in your heart. So you may be questioning the meaning of it all. You may be going through a crisis of faith. You may be feeling very serious or anxious or depressed. And so it's going to be important to validate those emotions for you, for yourself, because Jupiter wants to help you expand. Jupiter wants to help you live your best life. But because Jupiter's in your 12th house, what is required of you is going to be cleaning the skeletons out of the closet. And in doing so, you're going to give yourself a new freedom that you've never felt before. So Uranus is moving through your 10th house. There has been, for such a long time, a desire for certainty, a desire for commitment, really wanting to know that the people in your life or the things that you're committing to, wanting to know that those are locked in long term. But the only constant in the universe is change. And you too, my friend, are changing immensely. And with Uranus moving into Gemini on July 7th, it's going to activate your 11th house. And you're going to be more compelled to reinvent yourself according to, well, living life on your terms instead of living out a script that's old and tired, right? So give yourself permission to rewrite your script. Give yourself permission to take space and not be not be performing all the work that you need to do. The best way to do it is free of distractions and free of interference. So take that space whenever you need it. And when you come back, you're going to be more vibrant and more yourself than you ever have before. And do it in your own time. Divine timing, right? The world can wait. Virgo sun and Virgo rising. The great conjunction that kind of started all of this happened in your 6th house. And so one of the biggest things you would have noticed is a changing relationship with your day-to-day habits. Work would have been interrupted. I mean, that's kind of what happened with the world, but there's a huge focus for your sign, specifically on the concept of work and daily routines. And Virgos, you guys are creatures of habit. That would have been especially hard for you to change your patterns and change your habits. But that's exactly what happened. And what's extending from that is a continued focus on what can you do to be healthy, happy, and productive on a day-to-day basis. Looking at your diet, looking at your mental health, looking at your interactions. And because Virgo is associated with the harvest, that means clearing away the dead, clearing away the stragglers, clearing away the distractions, and really minimizing your energetic output. Jupiter and the new moon, this focus in the zodiac sign of Cancer that's really picking up speed right now. We have a new moon on the 25th. It's happening in your 11th house. So you're starting to maybe almost be ready to re-enter the world. If you've been taking time off, if you've been looking after yourself, this new moon is going to correspond with a re-entry, even if it's just a tiptoe, re-entering into your community or the world as a whole, but as a new version of you. You are continually evolving, and so there's this kind of new part of you that's starting to emerge. Neptune and Saturn are in your 8th house right now. And so as you try and balance your desire to, for example, channel your gifts, but also you have to pay your bills and survive, you may be pulled in a lot of different directions right now. It could be incredibly hard for you right now to balance the realistic and the ideals. And you may struggle to show up if you yourself are not getting your needs met. So this may feel really confusing. It may feel really polarizing for you. But it's important to remember that, even in the past, if a one-size-fits-all explanation fit, it's no longer the case. You're going to find that every day you need something different. If you get too locked in to rigid routines and rigid expectations for yourself or other people, you're going to continually find yourself being either disappointed or exhausted. Allowing yourself more flexibility is going to be huge. And with Uranus finishing up a journey through your 9th house, these are the conclusions that you're coming to, is that it's very rare when there's a one-size-fits-all answer or solution to stuff in life. The more that you can adapt and improvise as needed, the more you are going to excel at things like resilience or long-term success. So it isn't about seeking certainty. And Uranus is about to move into your 10th house, which means that for the next 8-ish years, that's going to be made especially clear. It's not about seeking certainty. It's about showing up as the best version of yourself each day. Each day it's going to be different depending on your capacity, and looking at every person, every situation, every challenge that you face as a new opportunity for you to use some of the tools in your tool belt or your mental library to look at each of these situations as a unique opportunity to problem solve, to improvise, to adapt. So yeah, as much as all of us want to get comfortable, that's not what's in the stars for you. Now, I want you to know, though, that you can't save everyone, and it's not your responsibility to carry or save the world either. But your clarity, your way of being able to kind of pick through the details and find some sort of a message or find some sort of answer or guidance or hope is going to be really, really, really valuable to the people around you. Yes, it's going to be very easy to see everything that's broken, and it's going to be an opportunity to stretch, to find the beautiful, the good, the treasures in this world, right? So Mars, now that Mars is in your first house, you're going to be super motivated and super full of energy, at least for the next month or two. So if it's been a while since you felt that motivation, definitely make hay while the sun shines, right? Libra sun and Libra rising. You guys were supported in the great conjunction of 2020. Yes, it felt like the world was falling apart. But at the same time, when you were kind of locked into this sort of workaholic energy, it was a stark reminder to really enjoy the little things, enjoy your free time, do what you can to nurture yourself and be silly. It would have been kind of like a unexpected and not necessarily wanted, but needed reset for how you were a little bit too locked in and too rigid with things. It's even still, though, you guys are going through this, feels like an ongoing struggle to kind of find your footing. Almost like every single time you feel like things are starting to go in your direction or starting to demonstrate some sort of consistency, whether it be your friendships or your professional life or whatever, you know, you're like, oh, okay, I could get used to this. Oh, and then it changes again, right? So you may be feeling irritated with pretty much literally everything right now. And as much as you can, try and remember to lighten up. Nobody's getting out of here alive, right? We have to enjoy the little things. We have to enjoy making wishes on dandelions and giggling with children, or nurturing your inner child by watching cartoons on a Saturday morning in your pajamas, whatever the case may be, right? Now, Jupiter just moved into Cancer. There's going to be a new moon in Cancer on the 25th, highlighting the importance of lightening up when it comes to how you perceive the future. And the reason for that is that when we have a really stark view of possibilities, we kind of step into that. The brain has this thing called confirmation bias. If we've already decided the world sucks and life sucks, then no matter what we see, we're going to be like, yep, that confirms it. Yep, that confirms it, right? So the new moon is going to invite you to see things in a different way and shake off any confirmation bias that you might have going on right now. Yeah, the Neptune and Saturn are bringing a very, very serious vibe to your 7th house. And so you're taking your relationships really, really seriously. And because you're kind of taking everything really seriously right now, you might feel profoundly disappointed in people in your life that are not embodying that same seriousness. So your planetary ruler Venus is currently in Taurus. It's a reminder to just relax as much as you can, right? Even when we're struggling with poverty, maybe we can sprinkle some extra, you know, spices on our ramen noodles, whatever the case may be. Like I said, Saturday morning cartoons. Giving yourself an opportunity to lighten up is going to help you feel softer towards yourself and the world around you. As much as you may have, or believe you have, every reason to feel serious or depressed or whatever the case may be, it is not a sustainable attitude. And a bad attitude is never going to get us a good life. It's it's not that we have to be happy to achieve good things, but what I'm trying to say is don't drive yourself crazy. Don't make yourself miserable. The world is already going to be good at that. I'm just kidding. Right? You want to make sure your headspace is a safe space. You want to make sure that as much as you can, you're carving out opportunities to giggle and lighten up. Uranus has been moving through your 8th house, and it's going to move through your 9th house. So the shift is going to happen very, very soon, away from everything feeling so harsh and so survival oriented into, wait a minute, if I can change my mind, I can change my perspective. And if I can change my perspective, I can actually enjoy what I'm going through a little bit more, right? So that's what's changing for you guys. It's going to be a blessing to not be so like panicky about survival. It's going to be an opportunity to change how you think, change how you perceive things. And if not for anything else, simply for your own sanity. Just do it for yourself, so that you're not feeling miserable and stressed out all the time, right? Everybody's got to giggle. Laughter is the best medicine. Always will be. That's my trauma response. I crack jokes in the middle of really heavy situations. It helps. It really helps. And it doesn't mean I'm checking out. It doesn't mean that I'm denying reality. It simply means that a little bit of laughter floods the brain with oxytocin or whatever the happy chemical is, and it helps us deal with difficult stuff a little bit better. Scorpio Sun and Scorpio Rising, the great conjunction that happened in 2020 that kind of started all of these themes that we're going through, happened in your 4th house, which meant that there were probably big changes, either in your literal home or your connection to your family of origin, or the people that raised you. And in that, a metaphorical connection to your emotions. So you may have felt as though the floor dropped out from under you. Maybe you felt like you lost support that you thought you had, or maybe you had to make some really big changes and really big moves to give yourself that support, realizing how essential it is to feel as though you're on solid ground, literally or metaphorically, right? It would have changed a lot of your patterns. It would have really kind of brought into your awareness how you have had long-standing patterns and how those would be connected to your family of origin. And now that the, Jupiter and the new moon are happening in your 9th house, so there's new hope coming in, new possibilities. You might even be thinking about traveling. So it's really cool to see reflected in your astrology that it's less about making sure that the bottom, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, making sure that the bottom foundation of food, rest, shelter, now that that's sorted, or at least less of a concern, there's going to be more of an opportunity to extend out of that. Okay, how can I step into using my gifts in this lifetime? Or how can I extend into community or greater meaning or interacting with relationships, whatever the case may be. So the new moon is definitely going to help you kind of be clear about how much has changed for the better. And of course, as much as you may be like, well, this is worse and this is worse, at the same time, if you think about where you were 5 years ago, night and day, undeniably, a lot has changed for the better. And of course, it doesn't negate the bad stuff, but it's important to remind ourselves of the good stuff, right? Now, that Jupiter and new moon is that return of hope, and also with it, a return of imagining the possibilities, kind of not being in survival mode so much. But Neptune and Saturn are in your 6th house. So there is still this heavy seriousness around, gotta pay the bills, gotta do something on a daily basis. It's gonna make sure that you've got food in your fridge, right? But you're coming at it from a different place. You're coming at it from a place of feeling capable, older, wiser. It's in a lot of ways, it's like the outside world, hasn't really changed much as far as the stuff you're going to encounter or the things that you notice, but what's really changed is who you are on the inside, and that is what changes your life, because you're showing up differently, right? Uranus is finishing up its journey in your 7th house. So this is kind of putting the cherry on top of the cake as far as cementing any of the big changes that have been happening in your relationships, personal or professional. And when Uranus moves into your 8th house, you're going to care far less about what other people think and far more about energy. Perhaps even your connection to spirit, or thinking about loved ones that have crossed over. There's going to be a much different, very Scorpio vibe to your life, your energy, and what feels important to you moving forwards. Some of it may be stepping back into a bit of survival mode, but from a different perspective, from a perspective of triage. That you're not going to waste your time on the peripherals and worrying about other people's drama or anything like that. It's going to be way easier for you to focus on what is most important for you and then taking action accordingly. Yeah. And Sagittarius Sun and Sagittarius Rising, the great conjunction that happened back in 2020, that's kind of like the bigger picture that I'm really looking at today. For you guys, it happened in your 3rd house. So you guys would have had the most direct hit when it came to feeling socially isolated. The lack of the ability to connect with your loved ones, to be social, to be silly, to be out there in the world. I mean, kind of like your favorite things on this planet were cut off during COVID and during that time period. And in a lot of ways, it would have been deeply uncomfortable for you to be alone with your thoughts or be isolated in a way that you no longer had the option of distracting or disassociating. If you were bound and determined to disassociate or distract yourself, you definitely would have found a way. But it would have really kind of brought your attention to how conversation is so essential as far as how you process emotions, how you process your experience here on this planet. And now Saturn is in your 5th house. So it's almost like you got over that hump. You started working through some stuff. It started feeling like, okay, things are smoothing out. And now Saturn's moved into your 5th house. So Saturn is Captain Sirius, and your 5th house is supposed to be joy and pleasure. So you're getting serious now about how important it is for you to have joy and pleasure and opportunities to be creative and silly in this lifetime. And it's interesting because it's something that you always circle around to, because maybe some other people see it as frivolous, but for you, it is a core need. You have to, I mean, if you have a busy schedule, it would really help you guys to literally put into your schedule, this is a day for play. This is a day to finger paint or hang out with friends and be silly. So it's going to be really important for you to continue prioritizing that in your life. With Uranus having been moving through your 6th house for the last like 7-8 years, all of this would have coincided with struggling to find meaningful work, struggling to find gainful employment, maybe struggling to make ends meet, and possibly even dealing with health issues as well. Now that Uranus is moving into your 7th house, what's going to be changing is a lot of the other stuff that used to be a concern is going to be sorted and fine, and you're going to return to the question of who's with me in this journey, who are my favorite people, who are my VIP people. And you're going to be thinking a lot about how maybe in the past you'd be like, I don't care, I'll just hang out with anybody. Whereas now that you're more authentic, and now that you're more tuned into who you are and what you need to be a happy and healthy individual, you're also going to find that you're a lot more picky about who you want to spend time with. And when you're going through something, you're going to be a lot more picky about who you want to talk to about it. So as a result, for the next 7-8 years, your relationships are going to change a lot, because you're going to find that you're just not interested in spending time with people who you just don't vibe with, right? Or people that you don't feel safe with or seen with, right? So your priorities are changing, your relationships are changing, but please do remember your emotions and your sensitivity are not a weakness. And anybody who makes you feel that way is not a good person for you. Okay? Capricorn sun and Capricorn rising. Back in 2020, you guys were, your sign was under a lot of pressure. You know, Pluto was in your sign. The Great Conjunction happened just in the first degrees of Aquarius. So there was a lot of focus on you guys and Aquarians. The Great Conjunction lit up your second house. And so your concept of what feels real, what feels tangible and true would have been shaken up a lot, especially if you're somebody who had a lot of faith in the system. It would have been a very shocking experience for you. And just kind of like a deer in headlights for a little bit. There would have been huge changes over the past 5 years around your relationship with money, how you make money, how you see yourself as a professional person, but also how you share what you value with the world around you. And now that we're about to have a new moon in Cancer, it's going to align with Jupiter in Cancer. What we're experiencing is an opening of the heart. And for you guys, that's in your 7th house. So you're going to experience over the next year an uptick in how connected you feel with the people around you. Because you had to make a whole lot of changes, especially money related, over the past 5 years. As a result, the people that you interact with in your life would have changed a lot. You're slow to warm up to people. You're slow to really share with the world who you are. That's a big vulnerability point for you. And so any of the relationships that have been slowly growing, you're going to find over the next year, they're going to start really deepening in value and in authentic connection. So that's going to be really cool for you. But the challenge is Neptune and Saturn in Aries are in your 4th house of family and home. And so as you start to have these beautiful, nourishing connections that are growing deeper and stronger, you may actually be coming home and going, wow, I don't really feel seen and supported here. Or, you know, it's going to be really interesting, like having a frame of comparison always changes how we see things, including things that we were so used to that it's going to be like, wow, I can't believe I never saw that before. Or so you may find that you're kind of unfulfilled within your home turf, or alternatively, there's a new desire to interact with people when usually you're a homebody. Usually you're like, oh no, I'm good, I don't want to be social, That's going to be shifting dramatically. So where and when you fill up your cup, your inner cup of emotional fulfillment, that's one of the biggest things that's changing for you guys right now. Uranus has been moving through your 5th house, changing how you seek pleasure, how you play, how you're creative, how you're silly. And Uranus is about to move into your 6th house of work and daily routines. So there's going to be a lot of changes as far as day-to-day activities, as far as work, but also how you fit in everything in your schedule. You may need to kind of switch things up in your schedule to make sure that there's room for play and room for your new friends or new relationships. So even though you're a creature of habit, over the next 7-8 years with Uranus moving through Gemini, you're going to be changing your daily routines, changing almost literally everything about your world. You may feel like a brand new person. Mars is currently in your 9th house, which is encouraging expansion, encouraging shifting your belief systems and shifting how you perceive the world around you. So stay curious, my friends. There are lots of really cool things coming for you. And it's all about growth in a new direction. Aquarius sun and Aquarius rising, you guys were at the top of the list when it came to the Great Conjunction of 2020 and the sign that was most affected. It would have felt for you guys like being reborn. And being born is painful and messy. Like, it's crazy, right? You know, everybody's like, ooh, age of Aquarius, and you're over here like, this sucks, right? It would have felt like starting in 2020, you had to really, really, really face the music in a lot of different parts of your life. In a lot of ways, it might have even felt like just the walls were closing in or everything was falling apart. But again, you know, when we're trying to build something for the future, any systems and structures that are not stable or healthy have to be torn down in order to build fresh and build in a way that's sustainable and designed for long term, right? So there was a lot of rebuilding, there was a lot of destabilization and stuff like that. And what you guys are coming into now is feeling like, okay, maybe you're starting to get a groove, maybe you're like almost even unrecognizable from 5 years ago. Jupiter has just moved into your 6th house, which promises new income, new work opportunities, feeling like your day-to-day life is really filling up, that there's a lot of stuff happening, a lot of opportunities. And so like I was saying in the beginning of the video with being picky, not every opportunity that comes your way is like meant for you. Get picky and choose from a place of this feels fun or this feels nourishing. What you're moving away from is, oh, I have to, or I should do this. That's not your jam anymore. Doing things because you genuinely want to. That's the direction that you're going in now. So with Neptune and Saturn currently in Aries, that's activating your 3rd house. So you are feeling a lot more serious about the people in your life, your VIP people, and you're also a lot more picky about or careful about what you share. There's kind of this school of thought around, it's actually from particle physics, that the nature of an atom can move from, for example, a particle to a wave, depending on whether or not it's being observed. And if we take these themes of particle physics, and I mean, cool crossovers these days between science and spirituality, in spirituality or spiritual belief systems, there are theories and philosophies around, if something is really important to you, not sharing it or not introducing it into the world until you're certain or until you have already achieved it or something like that, simply because something being observed changed the nature of it. So I hope that made sense. Basically, what you are birthing into reality is so incredibly sacred and important to you that you may find that you are less willing to share those dreams, those ideas, or those visions simply because you don't want anybody to wreck it for you or steal your sunshine, or you know what I mean? So that's okay. Protect your peace, protect your dreams, protect your visions. But if you come to the realization that there's like literally nobody in your circle that you would share it with, that's a red flag. And you might want to take another look at who's in your circle and why are they even there if you don't feel comfortable sharing your dreams and visions with them, right? But yeah, Uranus has been moving through your 4th house. So everything that you've been going through has been very internal, whether you've been thinking about your family of origin, the roots of your behavior, doing shadow work, doing therapy, working on being emotionally healthy or emotionally aware and emotionally intelligent. You've been going through it like for ages. And what's happening is Uranus is moving into your 5th house, starting on July 7th, and it's going to be there for like almost a decade. And it's going to really kick up the dust as far as what makes you happy. It's going to be an experience of leaning into more joyful interactions. You've done enough shadow work. Now it's time to do light work. Now it's time to nurture your inner child, finger paint, watch Saturday morning cartoons, whatever the case may be, and really return to the light, return to your joy, return to what makes life feel delicious and enjoyable rather than drowning in duty and responsibility, right? Yeah, and then last but not least, yeah. Sorry, one thing from my notes, Aquarius, you are not lost, you are reformatting. And while the world spins, your ability to stay rooted in purpose, even in the mundane, is a revolutionary act. Pisces sun and Pisces rising, the great conjunction activated your 12th house. So almost like this feeling of impending change or feeling of impending disaster. Those of you that had a tendency to avoid reality would have really, really struggled, because it would have been an experience of realizing you cannot avoid reality. You cannot avoid these things that are calling for your attention and begging for change, whatever the case may be. And that conjunction has now evolved to a Jupiter-Saturn square. So Jupiter, having just moved into Cancer, wants to expand the heart. And for you guys, that's your 5th house. It's going to be a new moon on June 25th. It is going to help you return to pleasure and joy and silliness and creativity for the fun of it. If you are creative, or if you are using your gifts in a way that you are trying to monetize them, that classically takes all the fun out of it. And so you may have felt like you've just been dragging your feet because a lot of stuff hasn't felt fun anymore. Whereas this new moon is really going to be kicking off the year of Jupiter being in Cancer, helping you reignite the flame in your heart, returning to the joy of what it is that you do, or what it is that you share with the world, personally or professionally. So get excited. It's going to feel really, really, really good, especially because Jupiter will be in a water sign, just like Pisces. Neptune and Saturn are in your 2nd house. So there is still this heavy weight of responsibility around having to pay the bills, having to deal with the cost of living, having to return to reality when you would really like to stay in the ether as long as possible. But these things need to be integrated, right? And the blessing that is coming for you and evolving in the now for you is finding that perfect intersection between contributing and sharing your gifts, but not burning yourself out. Showing up in the world in an authentic way, but not feeling unsafe being vulnerable, right? And finding that sweet spot, it takes time, it takes effort, but you are very equipped and very prepared. It's almost like everything has led you to this. And the more that you can go with the flow, the more that you can approach with curiosity and allow yourself to show up authentically and not worry what other people think. Say no when you feel like saying no. Take a break when you need to take a break. You will find that you can reintegrate in a way that you are reestablishing your relationship with time and space in a way that you feel good about. Uranus is finishing up its journey through your 3rd house, and it's about to move into your 4th house. So there has been a huge shift for you that is kind of wrapping up right now around how you speak your truth, how you communicate, how you network, who is in your network personally or professionally, right? And when Uranus begins its journey through your 4th house, that is where these connections and the safety of those connections is going to be even more important and more vital, because you're about to do a deep dive into your emotional health, your the roots of who you are, whether it be your family of origin. Maybe you'll end up doing therapy, or you know, really kind of taking that space and focusing on what is most important. And a lot of people refer to the journey of awakening or the journey of self-awareness as kind of like peeling back the layers of the onion. You know, we get through these layers, we might cry a bit, right? What you're stepping into is realizing what the onion is, if that makes sense. Like, it's not so much about, oh, this little awakening, or oh, this little realization, or something like that. Your journey is going to be about, oh my God, I see the connecting, unifying theory that strings all these things together. It's the realizing of the thing that is so small but so significant that you're like, oh, that's why this was like this, and that's why this was like this. So where things might have felt overcomplicated, the more that you do this deep dive into your emotions and simplifying that journey, the more the answers will feel simple. So it's not about overcomplicating things. It's actually about simplifying things. And yeah, nurturing your inner child and healing what is most important to you. Because if you feel safe in here, it doesn't matter what happens out here. You can return to here and know that you are eternally safe, right? So if you make emotional safety and emotional awareness your highest priority, literally everything else will click into place. Yeah. What I wrote down for you guys is, remember, you're not here to escape this world. You're here to soften it. Your compassion, especially now, is medicine. Just don't forget to offer it to yourself first, right? Yeah. So the closing message that I have for you guys, the world is changing faster than any one of us can control, and it's not about controlling it. We are living through the death of old systems, political, spiritual, ecological, and the birth of something that we cannot yet see. Birth is messy and painful and bloody and deeply, deeply, deeply uncomfortable. But it is a transformation that occurs on both a physical, emotional, spiritual, karmic, mental level. It is all encompassing. If you feel scared, you're not alone. If you feel uncertain, you're not alone. But where we will find sanctuary is in the compassionate support of the people around us, right? And the patriarchal and capitalistic society wants us to be scared. They want us to be overwhelmed. They want us to be confused, because what happens when the brain is overwhelmed, scared, and confused is it shuts off. That is a trauma response. That is our brains going, nope, can't do this anymore, right? And if you're feeling that way, that's valid, that's real. But I want to remind you that that's what they want. And with Saturn and Neptune in Aries, what's most important is our voice and our fire, choosing our battles wisely and doing so from a place of love and compassion. That is the only way through this. Yeah. Jupiter in Cancer reminds us that softness is strength. It's not a weakness. And if you find that people are trying to make you feel like it's a weakness or treating it like a weakness, those are the people that are causing problems right now. Because true strength comes from softness. Yeah. Softness in our bodies, in our homes, in our communities is not passive, it's revolutionary. So no matter what your sign, remember this: you do not need to save the world. You just need to keep your soul and your humanity intact. And from that place, right action flows. I love you guys so much. Mwah! I will be in touch soon. Because of burnout, because of having to do triage in my own life, I cannot guarantee that I'm going to be consistent with my postings moving forwards, but I can promise you I'm going to do my absolute best. Like I said, I am available for private readings, www.queenbeetarot.net or .com. That's all spelled one word, QUEENBEETAROT. Love you guys. Be strong. I'll see you next time.